Hello, citizens of Johnson County. Have you ever sat there just wondering while you're eating some ice cream or just sitting around outside drinking a beer or an old-fashioned, my preferred drink, and you just sit there and wonder, I wonder who our lead prosecutor is for the county, and I wonder how he's doing. Well, now's your opportunity. Joe Villanueva is that lead prosecutor. He's also rerunning in his campaign to become prosecutor again. But in today's episode, we're going to find out who is Joe Villanueva, what makes him the better candidate. So I hope you enjoy it. Stick around for the next little over an hour. Find out a little bit more about your lead prosecutor for Johnson County. My name is Matt Stumpo. Welcome to More with Stumpo. I really hope that you enjoy this episode. All right. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you coming to talk with me today. It really does mean a lot to me that you've just taken the time out of your busy evening.
Thanks for having me on.
With me. And you said your kids are out at Disney?
They just got back.
Got back?
Their flight got back in about midnight on Sunday. I had to go pick them up at the airport.
Man, did they have a good time?
They loved it. They went down there for spring break with their mom and another family, enjoyed all the different parks, had some great weather, and were able to get back and forth and have a great time.
That's awesome. You talked about your son, getting a lightsaber?
Yeah, one of the places they stopped was the Star Wars exhibit, and he was able to get a pre-made one. He didn't have time to get a custom-built one, but he had a Count Dooku lightsaber. He was all excited to show it to me when he brought it home. It has its own special carrying case, and the lightsaber part comes in its own box, and he'll have it up on his wall to display in his room. He's kind of a Star Wars geek, too.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if you noticed or not when you walked in, but I had Star Wars playing too.
Absolutely, so old school. Return of the Jedi.
Oh yes, it's such a good show. The first three were amazing. Technically, the last 4, 5, 6, but yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and dive into who you are as a person. So who is Joe Villanueva?
Well, I grew up not in Indiana, outside the northwest suburbs of Chicago, Schaumburg. For many reasons, it's similar to Greenwood is now. Nice suburb. Went to college at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. Met the girl who would later be my wife there. After graduating from Illinois, she stayed on for her master's, and I came to IU Bloomington for law school. When she was done with school, she kind of came over to Indiana, and we were trying to find where we would settle down. We knew we wanted to kind of plan a life together. Looked down in southern Indiana in Evansville, and actually kind of a funny story. I was in my between my second and third year of law school, and that summer, she had actually gotten a job with a group of ENTs in the Evansville area. So I thought, well, I guess we're going to maybe live in Evansville for our career. So I got a summer job with a law firm down there. I was living in Bloomington at the time, and about 3 weeks before I was scheduled to start that summer job, she quit that job in Evansville and got a job with a group of ENTs at John's Memorial in Franklin. So I thought, well, I guess we're not going to live in Evansville anymore. So I spent the summer down there in her townhouse in Newburgh, and she spent the summer in my apartment in Bloomington and commuted. And so I said, I guess we're going to try and look in central Indiana now. And she was working in Franklin at the time. So we looked around in Johnson County, found a little house out in the White River area.
It's a great area.
Have lived in that area ever since. It's just a great community, and one that we plan to be here for the rest of our lives.
That's awesome. You mentioned ENT, ear, nose, throat.
Yes.
Is that what she does for a living? Or
she is an audiologist. So she does
okay.
Hearing and hearing aids. She worked for a group of ENTs for a while. She then got her doctorate and went out on her own, and she's run her own business for the past 14 years.
That is so cool. Does she ever do any work with like Riley Children's Hospital?
No, Riley has their own audiology department, but she does do children as well as the geriatric population. I think some of the youngest kids that she ever tested their hearing were maybe a week or two old. It's really strange how you can test the kids' hearing when they don't have the ability to communicate with you like an adult. Like, hey, raise your hand if you hear the beep or whatnot. They have different kinds of testing procedures. So, she's very good at what she does.
That's really interesting. I might have to talk to her about that. I grew up taking hearing tests all the time. So
yeah, she actually works with a lot of our police agencies. the guys and gals have ear molds that they go to their radios. She can help make them custom ear molds so they don't fall out of their ear and they get wired right to their radios. So yeah, she's helped a number of our law enforcement agencies throughout the years in having be able to communicate with their radios a little bit better.
What's her business called?
Advanced Audiology. It's in
Advanced
Franklin.
Audiology. You mind sending me that link or whatever to it, and I can put it up in the description? Because I'm sure some first responder guys would probably want something like that.
Yep, I think that, a lot of them know about it, but for those who don't, it's a great asset.
That is awesome. So, IU Bloomington, what was your experience like down at IU?
Well, one of the reasons I chose Bloomington was because it was pretty similar to the experience I had in Illinois and Champaign. It was kind of the traditional college layout. It had a quad and just the old school architecture, and I really like that. When I was there, I kind of came right out of college, and law school is a little bit different. My focus wasn't necessarily having fun and going to parties and stuff. It was, hey, we're here to get through law school and try and start planning your career. And that's not to say we didn't go have fun, but that was our focus. I lived off campus, had an apartment, commuted into school every day. Actually, one of the guys that I'm still friends with, I met him in law school. His name is Rudy Pyle. He's actually one of our judges on our Court of Appeals right now. He was a motorcycle guy. I was a motorcycle guy. Back then, we both had sport bikes, and that's kind of what brought us together as friends. Oh, you got a sport bike too? And we'd go out riding and stuff, and that was
you would obviously abide by the law when you'd ride.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every single speed limit, equipment thing. The strange thing is I don't have bikes anymore. They're very dangerous, and it's not necessarily the person riding the bike, it's everyone else who doesn't pay attention to them. When I rode my sport bike, I would have full body armor on. I don't care if it was 110 degrees in summer or what it was. Helmet, ballistic armor, jacket, pants, boots, the whole shebang, gloves. And I had a cruiser bike, and for some reason I'd wear shorts and a t-shirt and tennis shoes, no helmet. I don't know why I thought it was a bit safer on that cruiser bike, but those days were all kind of pre-kids for us, and it was a lot of fun. And those are people who ride motorcycles. They know that it's not if you go down, it's just when are you going to go down. Yes. And my wife and I were fortunate enough. We had an incident where somebody who was traveling in front of us just stopped to make a turn, didn't use their turn signal. Fortunately, we were going slow enough that I was able to avoid collision, and we just kind of laid it down at maybe 2 or 3 miles an hour. She kind of hopped right off. I mean, nobody got hurt or anything. I had some scratches, but that was kind of a wake-up call for us. Like, man, what would happen if we got killed? We had little kids at the time, and having the extra time available is kind of precious anyway, and using that to go ride the motorcycle kind of fell lower and lower on the totem pole. So those reasons we ended up getting rid of those, and I've kind of changed from motorcycles to classic American muscle cars. That's my hobby now. Mm-hmm. They're a little bit safer, but a lot more expensive, unfortunately.
It looks way cooler too.
It is.
And you have a Pontiac GTO, is that correct?
Yep, I got a 67 Pontiac GTO that I got from California. I was always kind of a car kid growing up, always liked the old muscle cars. And, I think just like a lot of guys, whether it's motorcycles or cars, you kind of get that spring fever. You start looking online and, oh, this one looks really good. I really like that. And it got to the point where my wife just got tired of me, looking at them and should just go buy one. I'm like, okay. So we found one out in California, and it was fully restored, and brought it back here and have done some work on it since then. But it's really amazing. Now, obviously, they don't have the performance that modern day cars do, but there's something about the body lines and the colors and just the craftsmanship on those cars that's really unparalleled compared to what's out there today.
They're truly beautiful cars.
They are.
They have their own attitude.
Yes, and they are so unique from each other. Anybody can go buy a brand new Mustang or a Corvette or something. They'll eat my car for lunch out on the street. But if my car rolls down the street, that's the one that turns the heads. And that same goes for any of the guys or that have an older car or, kind of an antique thing. It's just, there's something that's great about saving that just American heritage. I mean, that whole thing is steel. They don't build things like that anymore.
It's a beautiful car too. I've seen it a couple times.
Thank you.
Yeah, I almost went up to him like, man, I really want to get a ride in that car.
Whenever you want to go, I'll let you drive.
Oh, even better. I appreciate that. I'll let you drive my F-150. It's a 2015.
Sweet.
So what made you want to become a lawyer?
Actually, funny story. I just told some folks over at Corn Country this. My mom always told me you're going to be a lawyer when you grew up. She kind of told me that when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was the first person in my family to go to college, let alone law school. And when I did my undergrad at Illinois, I had a dual major of English and Spanish. And at the time, I didn't have any desire to go into the teaching field. So I thought, well, I guess I am going to be a lawyer. So I decided to take the LSAT test and applied and went to law school. But when I was there, I really had no interest in the career path that I have now. When you're in law school, a lot of your first year classes are already set in stone by the school. Everyone takes kind of the same classes.
Like a core class.
Yeah, they're core classes. I figured I speak Spanish, maybe something in international business or whatnot. And my first year, I had a criminal law class, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. We had a professor who was in his last year of teaching.
I'm sure he was a joy.
It was great. We heard a lot of stories about things he did when he was a practitioner, but we were still tested on black letter law. So that really wasn't on the horizon. But between my first and second year of law school, I went and interned at the Monroe County Prosecutor's Office and got a chance to see some of the things that we learned about working in real life. And that was the bug that bit me. And I saw what happened there, and I got that experience during the summer. I said, this is what I want to do. This is it. So whenever I had extra electives that I can pursue, they were always focused on criminal law, criminal procedure, trial, advocacy, things like that. Then when I graduated from law school, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be a prosecutor. Made basically a cold call to the Johns County Prosecutor's Office with a letter saying, hey, my wife and I just moved to the area. She works in Johns Memorial, and this is what I want to do. And got brought in, had an interview, got hired on before I graduated law school, and I have been there ever since. My entire professional legal career has been at the Johns County Prosecutor's Office.
Really?
Yeah.
And how's your experience been here?
Awesome. The county has changed so much. The population has grown, but even at the prosecutor's office, like anything else, when you're the new guy, you start at the bottom level, and that's what I did. I was doing traffic tickets in our city courts, one in Franklin and one in Greenwood, and kind of as time progressed, worked my way up the chain a little bit with successes and trials, and getting more responsibility and earning those things, and got to the point where in 2019 I was selected to be chief deputy. That's when Lance Hamner left our office to pursue a judge spot. Brad Cooper was caucused in as the new prosecutor, and he selected me to be his chief deputy. So I had the opportunity to do a lot of higher level cases, oversaw a lot of the administrative programs for the office, and really over the last 22 years that I've been there, I've worked in every aspect of our office. I've done our juvenile stuff, I've done our child support stuff, I've done misdemeanors, felonies, I've done ordinance violations. There's no aspect that I haven't done, and that's been a great blessing to be able to know how your office works and every single aspect of it.
And then being there, so where the person that's behind you that's coming up, that you're able to relate to that. And it makes it easier for you.
Absolutely. When I was starting out, I was the youngest guy. Everybody was older than me. I was 24 years old. All the police officers were older than me. All the other attorneys in town were older than me. All the court staff were older than me. And now I'm kind of one of the old guys. We have some of the new guys who are on our police departments. They're in their early 20s. They could again they're young enough that they can almost be my kids. But I think part of what makes us a good county and makes us successful is you want to work with those younger people. You want to try and mentor them, help them, and that's why when we have trials and stuff at our office, it's not hey, this is the court that I work in, I'm going to do this trial. We try and share that workload. One, because it's a lot of work doing the trials, but two, we want everyone to have those opportunities to get into the courtroom and kind of get those trial skills. You don't get them when you're sitting in the city courts, but that's where you gotta kind of learn to cut your teeth and get some of the basic principles done and how to do these trials. And as you get up a little bit more in experience, we want to give everybody opportunities to work in front of all of our judges. You may work in one court, but if someone else is having a trial and they can use another person, hey, jump in. And it's really a team approach for us. We are one solid team, and even though someone may not have anything to do with the case, they may help out on something. I may not have anything going on with a particular case, but I'll help with some of the tech or IT stuff to make sure our photographs and our slides go well as far as presenting evidence. People can help with redacting body cam video. People can help with helping to prep witnesses or do other things. So even though it's not something that you may be directly involved with, everyone's kind of getting that experience along the way by being pulled in and made part of the team.
With redacting video and audio from police cam footage, what have been some of the cases that you've worked on where you've had to watch just hours and hours of footage?
And
I'm sure it's very common for you.
Actually, it is now. The vast majority of our agencies here in Johnson County now have body cam. And, we watch through all those. And if you have a situation where you have 5 or 6 officers respond to a scene, that's 5 or 6 officers worth of body cams you have to watch. And whether or not those need to be pared down because maybe they have some kind of content that is not going to be admissible. Maybe there's some conversations that won't be admissible. We have to do those editings down a little bit later. But there is probably no greater tool that we have come across in the last maybe 10 years than body cam for officers. It serves a lot of great purposes. One, I think it protects the officers against any kind of false claim. You touched me. There's, we've had situations where we see someone, banging their head on the hood of the police car, yelling police brutality, police brutality. They don't realize, because they're drunk, they don't realize the officer's standing 3 feet back and the whole thing is on camera. It really gives the jury or the judge, if it's a bench trial, the opportunity to feel like you're there, because that's what you're trying to do in a trial is to immerse the jury and make them feel like they're there. And testimony is good, but it can't do it like a video. You get tone, you get tenor, you get everything. And it cuts both ways. If you have someone who claims, oh, this guy was drunk and he was stumbling around, well, the video either shows him stumbling around or it doesn't. So it really, I think, helps to resolve a lot of issues that otherwise wouldn't be resolved before that kind of stuff happened. And the other thing too, it's a layer of accountability, quite frankly. We have a lot of great officers here in Johnson County. We're blessed. There are some bad ones in the profession, and it's good to be able to have that level of accountability, because if there's a police officer doing something wrong, we don't want them here in Johnson County at all, and no one would want them elsewhere either. So as much as it can protect the police officers from kind of bad allegations, it can also make sure we're not allowing police officers to act inappropriately, because they're on camera too. Yeah. And it's tough, I think, living in that world where you're interacting and every single word you say and every single action you make is videoed, and it may be scrutinized by someone later on. And that's not to say that people don't get animated, and if you just chase some guy down, maybe use a cuss word or something, we get it. Everyone's human, but these really give the chance for the police and the people they interact with, especially if they are really animated or abusive to the officer, for the jury to see, hey, this officer was completely professional and polite and tried to do everything he could to de-escalate the situation or deal with this person. And you have the person, whether it's a bystander or a defendant, who's just screaming profanities at the officer and making themselves, really look like a jerk. So, so for evidentiary value, nothing beats those things.
I've noticed in the field that I work, we'll go on calls and we'll see an officer with a camera. Usually we typically avoid those guys because we look at him and we're like, oh, he'll usually tap at it and be like, oh, hey, it's not more of a, hey, watch what you're doing. It's just, hey, just be aware there might be a situation going on to where we're recording it. So, but to me, it's always kind of one of those things. Like, if I was recorded on everything I did, would I be different? Would I act different? Would I change? Sorry, I didn't change this. Would I be acting different, or would I be acting even more, nicer? I mean, I try to typically think like I wouldn't be acting much more different than I would be regardless, because for the career field I'm in, it's a little bit different. But for an officer, if that officer's having a bad day and he comes in, let's say he's got some problems going on at home, he comes in, the first run he's got is some guy screaming and yelling at him, telling him he's a piece of trash, throwing cheeseburgers at him, throwing silverware, and the officer's got to be respectful and got to be nice, and some words come out, maybe some extra actions, and he's got to chase the guy down. Because I've been one of the guys that had to chase somebody down before, and it's like you're just so amped up, and then just one thing happens, a hit happens, and you're like, okay, I got to chill out. Like I gotta calm the situation down. This is not helping that, or this is helping that. And then somebody else sees it, and then like you can see some. I don't want to talk too much about it, but you can see some footage like where the Derek Chauvin trial, where knee on the back of the neck. You see that. Well, that was what he was trained to do. I'm not here taking sides, but his police department came out and said he was trained to do this. This is part of the training. Everybody else sees it and they're like, this is horrible. Like, that's absolutely just disgusting. Well, it's how they were trained. And that's what makes it a little bit more difficult, just being recorded all the time. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone's going to sit out there, pull their phone out and record you. I'm sure it's happened to you too. You being a prosecutor, someone you're talking to somebody and someone pulls the phone out and starts talking. It's happened to us too. We're on a run, sitting there talking with a patient, and one of the family members comes up and just puts their phone up right up to you, and you're just like, hey, this is awkward because I'm really trying to help, making it seem like it's, doing something wrong.
Yeah, but I don't know that there would be a great change in how these men and women behave. I mean, I think at some point you become used to having that as just part of your daily, grind is that this is subject to scrutiny. And again, nobody's going to hold them to perfection. Hey, people get frustrated. Maybe you let a curse word slip, but I think they all know and do a really good job in making sure that's moderated. You don't have people just dressing them down for no reason. Again, they all understand that these are evidence, and they're going to be judged on that witness stand just the same way as any other witness will be. And I think they all get it, and they're all professionals, and I don't know that we've had any situations where that's really been an issue where you have someone who's just so off the rails that, hey, we need to have a discussion with this person. Again, you can, oh, why the F were you running or something? I get it, but after that, it's calm. And again, they're human just like everybody else, and sometimes that the public and everybody else wants to put them under a microscope more than they already do. And I don't know that any of us would survive the kind of scrutiny that these men and women have to go through on a daily basis.
They go through a lot.
They do.
They go through a lot. It's truly amazing. But law enforcement guys, those guys are just a different beast. I mean, they're not as good as firemen, but they're just a different beast. I'll just say that. You talked about earlier you possibly going into teaching.
Well,
Like
no.
English and Spanish, or
Well, when I had my undergraduate degrees, I didn't necessarily want to go into teaching. I didn't want to be a teacher at that point. So that was one of the other reasons that I think gravitated towards law school.
So you said you took Spanish. Do you still know your Spanish?
I do. I can still speak Spanish. It's faltered a little bit. I don't have as many opportunities to use it as I did before. It was actually really great when I started out in our city courts. We'd have a lot of people who spoke Spanish who didn't have a license or whatnot, and I could just communicate with them
That's cool.
very easily. I don't have as many opportunities to use it now as I did previously. We actually had a case where I was able to use it. A couple years ago, there was a murder case where a gentleman, I guess I don't have to use alleged anymore because he's been convicted, shot another guy on the side of Four Seasons restaurant in Greenwood.
Oh, yeah.
They were all Mexican. They were all illegal. None of them really spoke any English, so we had to have translators come in during the trial. And when we had witnesses or even the defendant on the stand, the defense attorney would ask a question in English, and the translator would then give the question translated into Spanish. The person in the witness box, whether it's the defendant or other witness, would start giving the answer, and I already knew what they were saying before they had to translate it, and it was something that was hearsay or something else that could be objected to. So I'm telling the judge, I object, and they're all kind of like, wait, you'll see. So it was nice being able to have that kind of knowledge, because I already know what they're saying before the jury heard it. Because having the translator say, well, he said this, and then the jury hears that, we had a chance to kind of cut that off at the pass. Unless there was people in the jury who spoke Spanish, then they probably understood that too.
Your job as prosecutor for Johnson County, what specifically do you do?
It is our job to represent the people of this county. They are our clients. It's our job to protect them and the property of Johnson County through the criminal justice process. We have our law enforcement agencies who will investigate the crimes. They oftentimes will seek our assistance in various aspects of that. But then once the case is presented to us, we will screen it and decide what the appropriate charges will be. Sometimes, we'll have a case that comes into us. They want certain charges. We say, well, we may need a little more investigation on this before we can decide what to file. There may be alternate charges that are filed, but then once it hits the court, it's our job to kind of see those through.
For your role as prosecutor in Johnson County, is there any political standings that you can come up and stand with, or do you have to be bipartisan?
Well, I mean, it is a partisan position, but really, we are ministers of justice. We are the same arm as the judicial branches, like our judges. Now, we don't have to abide by some of the same rules that they do, but, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution. So did, all of my deputies. And, our decisions can and only should be driven by what is the law and what are the facts of the case. That has to be what is the basis for all our decisions that we make. I mean, that's the foundation of our country, the rule of law. That our laws and rules apply to everyone equally, regardless of your gender or your age or your socioeconomic status or any other kind of identifier. So it is, I guess, a political position, but that's not how it's conducted.
Okay. The recent changes that's going on in the state and other states as well is like the constitutional carries, like the permit, getting rid of the permit, paying for the permit. What's your opinion on that, or what is your stance on that as a prosecutor?
Well, I think the General Assembly made the right call. Again, we took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and I don't know of any other constitutional rights that we need to, or we seek to have licensed from our government. You and I don't need a license to be talking right now for this kind of a podcast.
Oh, that's such a good point.
You don't need a license to go to church. A newspaper doesn't need a light to print their newspaper. At what point does someone get to decide what constitutional rights you get to keep and what constitutional rights you get to license away to the government? I understand that the superintendent was dramatically against that part. And I understand, again, that's really something that is more a law enforcement question. But at the same time, the people who are law-abiding citizens and carry their guns responsibly and are doing the right thing, they're still going to do the right thing. And the people who shouldn't have guns and don't follow the rules, they're still going to have guns. They're still going to not follow the rules. Just because our job may be a little bit more difficult doesn't mean that it should trump someone's constitutional rights. For instance, you have a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. If the police want to interrogate you and ask you questions about something that they believe you committed a crime, you have no obligation to talk to them. Is it easier if we get a confession? Oh, absolutely. But it doesn't mean you get to take away that person's constitutional right, because it makes our jobs a little bit easier. I commend our men and women in law enforcement who are out there, because it's dangerous. Every single traffic stop could be the last one you're ever on, and is it nice to have that information? Yes. Does it change how they interact? I mean, I don't know. I would hope not. You would probably think that when they're going up to these cars, you're always assuming there's some kind of a danger until something changes and maybe lowers that level of alertness or awareness from a 10 to maybe a 6 or something. But that's if we had to come down on the law, they made the right call.
I agree. What does your wife think about you being a prosecutor?
She always has been very supportive. She's been my rock. A lot of times when you have this kind of job, and it's not just mine as the head prosecutor, it's any of the deputies, our support staff. We only see the bad side of humanity. You can have people who are good 364 days a year. We catch them on that 365th. Mm-hmm. And it is hard to not become jaded in your viewpoints on people and society. And she's really been someone who's clawed me back from having kind of that the whole world is black and white in how you look at things. That there are good people. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some bad people out there. They just need to be put away and kept from being able to harm other people. But there are quite a few people out there who are good people. They've made a bad mistake. They will pay the price for it, and then maybe you'll never see them again. And I don't know that you can categorize all those people the same way. You can't paint all those with the same brush. One of the things that I think kind of has helped me personally with that is that, in addition to having my prosecutor hat that I wear, for about the last 10 years, I've been on the board of directors for Adult and Child Health. And, that has really kind of helped open up my eyes to some of the things that we're seeing here in the criminal justice system today that didn't exist, some years ago. And that's really I'm going to call it a surge. I think that's probably an underestimation of how to describe it, with people with mental health issues and substance issues. And I would say probably about 7 out of the 10 cases we deal with have either some substance connection or a mental health issue that's driving it. And that's something we didn't see before. And we're trying now to really to help some of those people, to be progressive and not just reactive in these things. Because we have, again, so many folks who suffer for these things. I think everybody probably knows somebody who has something, depression, whatever it is, anxiety, and getting rid of that stigma that oftentimes comes with mental health. And how do we help these people? And I think our sheriff has done just a fantastic job in helping to lead the way. Greenwood's on board with this too, and that's the CIT training, crisis intervention training, for a lot of our law enforcement officers. That they have specialized training. It's a week long that really help them understand better how to interact and deal with these folks who, they're experience some kind of a break, with reality, and
or a traumatic experience.
Exactly, that's something that's rising up in their minds again. And the reason that they're behaving or doing these things is not because they have some kind of criminal intent, but it's because it's being the result of an unaddressed mental health issue. So we actually, I'm very proud of this. Have gotten some new court systems online right here in Johnson County to help some of these things in both the mental health side and in the drug side. Our circuit court has been operating for probably about 3 or 4 months now in doing a felony drug court. We have so many drug cases, and our Indiana DOC facilities actually have some of the best drug treatment around. I mean, you have a captive audience when you're there. They can go through months and months of treatment. It has a great success rate, but not everybody is going to be eligible to be sent off to DOC. A lot of our low-level felony cases where you have a level 6 possession of heroin or methamphetamine or fentanyl or whatever it is, was not eligible. They may be coming this July some changes to that, but the option was to just let those people sit in jail and do nothing. And there is going to come some point where they're going to be released. And if you don't address the problem, it's just going to be a revolving door, and they come right back in. So our circuit court judge, our office, probation, and some other stakeholders helped create this felony drug court where these nonviolent addict type offenses are brought out, and this is all post conviction, so no one's being forgiven of the sin or the crime. It's all post conviction. But instead of just sitting there in the jail, they are brought into this program where they meet a couple times a week. They have to undergo substance abuse testing multiple times a week. They're in IOP classes, and it's really designed to kind of help them just break free from those bonds of addiction. And sometimes it's just mental, sometimes it's physical. Flip side of that, we have going online later this month our first behavioral health court that's going to focus on people with mental health issues. Because again, right now, our jail and many jails around our state are kind of the de facto holding facilities for people with mental health issues, and that's really not where they belong. Again, we need to kind of help these people get back to where they need to be. And I think, as a prosecutor's office, that should be part of our job too. It's not just to punish people and get them in jail. It's to do whatever we can to help our community be better. And these are our friends and our neighbors. So when we have these behavioral court sessions, they're going to be run similarly to the ones like in our drug court. Instead of being in jail, we'll get these people out. We'll get them back to seeing their physicians, get them back on their meds, because a lot of times what happens is they start feeling better. They said, well, I don't need these meds anymore, and then they don't realize how far they've spiraled out because they're not on the meds. So getting those things back in there, getting that support network in there with all these meetings and whoever else, with the goal of getting these people back to be productive members of society. And like I said, we talked about drug addiction and mental health, and really we see a lot of times that those are tied together, and you need to address them both. You have maybe someone who has a mental health issue and they can't cope with life, or to try and cope with life, they start turning to substances, and that's what causes the addiction. Or vice versa, someone who is so addicted to drugs, now it's causing mental health issues. So it's really an opportunity for us to kind of combat this from all angles, to help these people, because again, they're our friends, our neighbors, our fellow citizens.
Wow. So the behavioral court that you were talking about,
mm-hmm.
How does that? It sounds like to me that there's a panel of people that sit there, and then you plead your case of, this is what I did, this is the issues that I'm having, and can you help me? How does it? Can you explain to me how that works?
Yeah, the behavioral health court is going to be run in a similar fashion to the way our drug court is. someone will have a criminal case pending, whether it's a drug case or maybe something. Again, with a behavioral health case, it'll be whatever the crime was. Obviously, it's because there's a mental health issue that needs to be addressed. That person can have their case screened by the treatment team. They'll see whether they make any of the eligibility requirements, and if that case does meet the standards and would be a good fit, that person would then have their case transferred to that court, where that judge would then oversee the case and deal with it from that point forward. So yeah, that person would be meeting with that treatment team, and it really, it's so different than the way courts run. Because you think of a regular court session, the judge is sitting at the bench,
Yes.
and he's in his robe or her robe. That's really not the way these work. It's really a lot more informal. It still has to be on the record because it's part of the court proceedings, but the judge will just be in regular clothes. He's not in the judicial robe, and the way the decisions are made, it's a team decision. It's not necessarily the judge saying, all right, this is what's going to happen. They all know going into it, like, here are the parameters. For instance, if you get caught, drinking or using drugs while on the drug court program, there's going to be a specific sanction you're going to have to face. So they all kind of know that going in. So, that helps make sure everybody is treated fairly and equally. So it's those kind of things, again, that give some accountability. It can take into account slip-ups, that people have on the road to recovery, without saying, okay, yes, I know you've been a meth addict for 10 years and you're on probation, you have to stay clean, and you use meth one time. Well, it's not uncommon that would probably happen. So, they take those into account and work them through those steps. Now, obviously, it's not indefinite. If people just can't or won't toe the line, we have to have the consequence. But it really gives them the opportunity to turn their life around. And, I think a lot of times the people we've seen in those programs, they're at that point, they're ready to do it. We've seen it happen just in other cases. If you bring someone in and they're not ready, they're not gonna be successful. And, kind of conversely, if someone's ready to turn that corner, there's not much that's going to stand in their way from being successful. And that just gives them an opportunity to take that second avenue.
Addiction is something that is extremely difficult to deal with and talk about. Where I work at it, we see it all the time. So when you talk about somebody having a slip up and having a different reaction to it, not by just locking them away right off the bat, do you guys still work with them after they have their slip up, or is the sentence different, or how does that work? I'm not sure how that works.
Well, again, like we talked about in these drug court programs, if someone were to consume something, the sanction will kind of depend upon how it comes about and how it comes to light. If you are honest and tell your caseworker, hey, man, I used last weekend at a party, I'm gonna test dirty on my urine screen, you'll have one kind of sanction. But when you try and hide things, or oh no, I didn't possibly use anything, and then you have a certified test comes back that shows you're through the roof on whatever the drug might be, you'll be punished harsher for that. And it's not because you used, it's because you weren't honest and upfront about it. And I think that's kind of the difference in how those programs are designed to do. I mean, they're always willing to work with people who want to get better and who acknowledge the fact that they may have messed up. It's the ones that are trying to hide it or play games that are going to be punished a little more severely.
So you're saying if I want to do drugs, all I got to do is just be honest about it afterwards?
No, don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs.
Okay, well, hey, so you're obviously rerunning for county prosecutor again. Why are you running?
This is what I want to do. This is what this is the career path I've chosen. This is how I wish to serve my community. We've done this for 22 years. I worked my way up. Again, I've had my entire career just here in Johnson County. We are doing a lot of great things now that we weren't doing before. We're at a really unique place right now, I think, in our history with the people in leadership roles in different agencies. There wasn't for many years any kind of communication or cooperation. People were kind of independent silos, and we all had to work together, but that was just something we had to do. We are now at a point where we have all the right people in all the right places. And kind of what I mean by that is we have, Dwayne Burgess is currently our sheriff. We have Kirby Cochran as the Franklin Police Chief. We have Jim Eisen as Greenwood. I've been here since 2019. I had to work very hard to, and others did too, to mend some of the broken fences and bridges that got burned because of what happened with our most previous administration. But through those efforts, there is now a total new sense of respect and cooperation, and that's why you've seen multiple drug roundups. We've had multiple sex stings where it's not just one agency doing things. It's multiple agencies working together, along with our office. It's a team approach because, if Franklin does something good, that's a win for all Johnson County. If Greenwood does something good, that's a win for all Johnson County. We don't have just independent cities with walls. Criminals don't care where they're at. So the more we can work together and share intel, share resources, share things, the more successful we're going to be. We have narcotics guys who, for all intents and purposes, are all one group. These guys all work together. We meet with them every month to talk about the drug cases. They may have different patches on their shoulders, but they operate more like a task force than anything else. And I think that's kind of where we're at now. We've gotten so much good stuff that we've done, and we want to keep doing those things. We want to have more of these drug rounds. We want to have more sex things. We want to have more instances where our agencies cooperate and work with one another. And the only reason that happens is because you have the right people who are in those positions. When we had these prior press conferences for drug rounds or what have you, the great thing about the four of us at that table is that nobody is there with an ego or an agenda. It's all about, how can we come together to help make Johnson County cool, the best place it can be. And, you don't have to look much farther than just right to our north to see how differently things are done there than here. And what happens when you have a level of cooperation and trust with your people inside and when you don't. These guys are all on my speed dial. I'm on theirs. So they have a question. Hey, can we get something done on this, or can you help me on this? Yeah, sure. How do we fix it? Boom, and it's done. And that's one of the things that we want to keep working on. We don't want to dial the clock back to the days when that kind of relationship didn't exist.
The fact that you bring up with Dwayne Burgess and the communication through multiple departments. I'll just use one example real quick, and then I'll ask the next question, was when the Antifa stuff was going on, and then they were talking about coming down to the Greenwood Park Mall and destroying it. The response of the law enforcement agencies throughout our entire county was absolutely amazing. I was on shift the day they were supposed to do it at the fire department, and we even had our own meeting, and we even had one of the police chiefs over there and talking with us about it, which was great to have that communication levels between the admin. And the amount of officers that were there, waiting for it to, it just, the preparation was amazing. And the fact that it's not going to happen in Johnson, they're not going to let this happen in Johnson County if they can help it at all, which really made me pretty proud of our county.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that exact date because I was there. The kind of the command meeting center was the Greenwood Range behind the Value City.
Yep.
And
Saw pictures of that.
I was there early, and we had all our police agencies there, state police. I may have had to move some U.S. Marshals there. I'm not quite sure, but
That's cool.
we had already planned out what was going to be the strategic response, because again, we didn't know whether we'd be getting cars full of people who are going to come on down and try and do a smash and grab or whatever else down here. It had upset quite a number of people, and we weren't going to let what was going to be happening in Indianapolis happen down here. Now, thank God it didn't end up materializing anything, but I think one of the reasons we had that outcome was just because of what you talked about, how everyone was on the same page. I know when I was down there, we had walked through, all right, here's our legal parameters, here's what we can and can't do, here's what we'd likely be charging people with, here's how we go through that process. To have us there to kind of give some legal analysis in real time to make sure that they're all doing the right things. And again, there were just stacks of white police cars everywhere. Yes. And they were rolling through, and I'm so glad that we didn't have to actually do anything like that. But again, that's just another example of how we kind of do things differently here in Johnson County, and why when you turn on the TV, you hear about, again, all these horrible things that are happening up there. And I think every day we don't have to deal with those kinds of problems, but I think one of the reasons is we have people who work together, and we will do whatever it takes to try and keep our people safe.
This next question, I apologize if you have to repeat yourself with some parts, but why should the people of Johnson County vote for you to be the continuing county prosecutor?
Well, I think one of the things you need to think about when you are a voter is what do you want out of your prosecutor? And when I came up through the ranks, I was a line deputy. I did trials all the time in court, had my own caseload and things like that. And I still do, I've had a caseload ever since I took over in 19. It's not a full caseload anymore because I do need to have time to dedicate to administrative matters, but I'm still in the courts almost on a weekly basis with my people. I have trials, I have suppression hearings that I have to argue, and other kinds of motions and things like that. That's kind of how I came up. One of the reasons that I do that is because I think, one, if you're going to have the respect of the people you work with, being my deputies, being other attorneys, our judges, police officers, or whatnot, you need to be able to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, so to speak. You don't get the respect and admiration of your people if you're just telling them, hey, go do this, but you're not doing that same thing. Kind of use a military term. We're in the trenches with them, same blood, same mud. That's my belief in how you lead, and you lead by example by doing that. You don't have to do that. My predecessor, my current challenger, chose the route of being an administrator, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that if you wish. We have a great office administrator at our office right now. We don't need two, and I don't know that personally for me, I don't know that that's what the people of Johnson County deserve, is someone who's just going to sit in the office and tell people how to do things, as opposed to being out there and doing it right alongside them.
So you're one of those guys that wears a vest and got a Kevlar helmet out there too?
Not the helmet, but we have a number of our deputies who carry, and we also have vests as well.
Man, that's so cool. Joe Hubbard actually recommended that I have you on. He actually contacted me. He's like, you need to have Joe Villanueva on.
Joe's a great guy.
He spoke a lot about you, which means a lot if it's coming from Joe, to me, to be honest. This question I asked you a little bit before we started. Again, if you're still comfortable with talking about this topic, what has been one of the hardest prosecutions that you've had to work on in your career that kind of just hit you at home?
Well, I don't know that's any one case. I think there are certain kinds of things that you see. Crimes that involve young children are tough to deal with. like I said, in the fire world, you see the same thing. There are certain things that you see and you hear and you experience that will forever be burned into your mind and burned into your soul. And this job, like any one, your first responder or otherwise, I'm sure it's even worse for you guys. It takes a little bit of your soul away. It does, having to see some of these things, but that's what you sign up for. We see horrible photographs of things that have happened to people, horrible child pornography, other things. I can remember going into a couple crime scenes, and blood has a unique smell. I can still smell it. I can think of certain crime scenes that were from decades ago, when I can walk through the house right now and I can see where blood smears were on the walls. I could see where things were sitting. I can remember it like it was yesterday. So I think that's kind of the hardest thing. It may not necessarily be a case. It's just kind of the aggregate weight that being in this profession can do to you.
With your answer on that, what have you done to kind of help you process that?
You know what? You compartmentalize it. Is that the right answer? I don't know, but that's one of the only ways I kind of know how to deal with it. You have to understand that you can't let it consume you, and I think you have to kind of keep that perspective that the world is not a completely evil place. There are evil people in it who do evil things. But there's a lot of good in the world, and you got to kind of look for that too at the same time. Otherwise, if all we focused on was the bad, there'd be nothing left of us.
Recently, somebody just told me, with your answer of just compartmentalizing, I gave the response when somebody asked me how something was going on, and they told me, they said, if that's how you deal with traumatic events, then that's how you deal with it. If it's helping, it's helping, and if that helps you, then that helps you. Yeah. That's the toughest part.
And everybody deals with things differently. Some people like to talk it out, and some people don't want to talk about those things. It's just what works for anybody as an individual. Shoving it deep down, is it the right answer? I'm sure it's not. Probably ask any kind of anybody in behavioral health sciences, they're going to say no, that's not the right answer.
By the book, it's not.
No, I'm sure it's not. But it's worked for 44 years so far.
All right. Oh, good. It's good enough. But if you ever need to talk, there's a couple more questions that I had for you. Really, more about like how many hours a day do you put in as a prosecutor?
Well, I think it kind of depends. We all have an ebb and flow in our schedules, just like anybody else. I personally am probably putting in again any kind of campaign stuff aside, just pure workday stuff. I'm still putting in 40 to 50 hours a week. We have people, and I did too, when you're gearing up for a trial, it's double that. It is sun up to sundown. You're there Saturdays and Sundays. There are a lot of times when, if you're mid-trial, you're maybe done for the day at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. You're still into the office at 11 o'clock, maybe midnight. At least that's kind of how I did things, preparing for the next day, tweaking your presentation, maybe tweaking your questions for a future witness based on things that came on during the trial. So it can vary from full time to probably two people's jobs worth of time that you're putting in.
That's a lot of stress. So obviously, you don't have you don't have any gray hair at all. Is it just? I
have like 7 on this side. I counted them. Just blessed, I guess.
Hey, you're lucky.
If I had a beard, it's all gray here in the muzzle, though. I guarantee you that.
So you mentioned your campaign. So what are you doing right now for your campaign?
Well, we got a lot of stuff going on. We're getting ready to go out and hit some doors. We got some signs out. We got literature that's going to be going out with people. Things like this podcast. We have other things we're doing on social media. Just really trying to get our name out there. Why people should want to choose us and move forward, as opposed to kind of rolling that clock back. It's amazing how fast the time goes. You started out 1 year ago when we can announce, and now we're about a month away from having election day, and it's just not enough hours in the day anymore, unfortunately.
Have you had any fun stories about knocking on doors and getting doors slammed on your face, or people yelling at you?
Historically, people are pretty good. I don't know that I've had anybody really be rude. I've had people, close the door in your face when they figure out why you're there. I've had people who the front door is open, you'll stand there, they'll kind of glance over, see you, and just go back to what they were doing. They won't bother answering. Some people don't answer the door anyway. It'll be interesting to see really kind of how COVID has changed things. I don't know what will happen. Maybe people will be more anxious to have interaction with people and talk. Maybe some will have the exact opposite interaction. Well, hey, I don't want you here. So there's a lot of components to campaigns that you want to try and find a way to connect to different people with different levels and whatever is comfortable for them. The great thing about internet and other kinds of electronic communications is that people have the ability to go look up and learn about you.
Yes.
Whether you are actively trying to get to them or not. So, there will be thousands and thousands of people that I won't have the opportunity to talk with or personally meet even if I spent every waking hour from now to election day just knocking on doors 24/7. I won't even scratch the surface of the number of people we have here in Johnson County. So you kind of have to rely a little bit on, forms of mass communication, mailings and social media things and news articles or whatever people use as their source of information. You want to try and touch as many of those things as you can to get the information out there to them.
What is something that you've learned about yourself with doing your campaign, either that being talking in front of large groups of people, whether that be just walking up to random strangers' homes, or just putting yourself out there?
Well, I think the biggest thing you learn, and it's not just for this campaign for me, but I think anybody who wants to go into elected position, kind of a political foray, you need to be ready to have thick skin, because there will be people out there, whether it's social media or whatever, that just say horrible, hurtful things about you as a candidate or as a person or whatnot, and you just got to let it roll off your shoulders. You can't take everything personally, and it's just how it is. Again, social media can be a great asset for us as a society. It's also kind of the common toilet bowl that is out there. The fact that you can have keyboard warriors or faceless profiles out there saying whatever. Would you say half these things if it was you and I standing in front of each other? Probably not. There's some safety in that kind of anonymity, but that's something that exists in just about every position, and I'm sure it gets even worse as you kind of go up the food chain from our county levels to maybe a state or federal level race. It's just part of what's going to happen. You're not going to make everybody happy. It's impossible. So you try and do what you can, stick to your principles. Whatever guideposts you have in your life, follow that and let the chips fall where they may.
Is there anything that you would like to talk about while you're on here?
Well, we have an election coming up. Please get out and vote. If you're not registered, I think the window's almost closed. Make sure people are registered. Do your homework. We have a number of different ways that people can learn about me, about our campaign and everything else. I have our Facebook page, our Joe B for Prosecutor Facebook page. We have joebforprosecutor.com, which is our website. I even have my own personal Facebook page. I actually had that for quite a while, and it got to the point where we had to make something a little bit separate. But I think if you really want to see what kind of makes a person tick, just what do they post about? What's important to them? For me, it's my family, faith, and muscle cars on my personal one. But again, sometimes people don't realize all the good stuff that we're doing. We have our attorneys in court just grinding it out week after week. Not everything makes the news. Some of the big stuff does, but there's a lot of good that we do for the community that and the police agencies too, that kind of goes unnoticed. For instance, we have a child support division in our office. It's a free service that we offer to people here in Johnson County. So if you're a single parent, statistically speaking, it's probably oftentimes a single mom, and you're needing to help establish child support to get to payments, we do that for you for free, and we help to collect on that. In the last 3 years, our office has collected $21 million in child support that was owed. So, if you're a single mom out there, that child's needs don't stop. Those bills don't stop just because you're not getting your child support checks. So we try to do what we can to help make that burden a little bit lighter by getting those people in there to make them pay and do those kinds of things. So again, sometimes people don't know all that kind of good stuff we do. We have a lot of lower level cases that just get closed. Again, sometimes the big ones get notoriety, but we've won 17 out of our last 20 jury trials, and we've won about 37 out of our last 40 bench trials. So we're doing well in the community, and a lot of people don't see that. I know some of our news publications now here locally, you have to have a subscription to see things. You can't really see things for free either online anymore, and I get it. So that, I think, kind of limits what knowledge people have about what's going on. But you can learn more about that stuff on our webpage, or just look outside, and see how different it is than Marion County. Do you hear gunshots outside in your neighborhood? Unlikely. Maybe you would if you're near a range or something. But whatever we can do to keep our county safe and healthy, in a place where people want to be, they want to grow up, they want to raise a family, they want to have a business. That's our goal.
That's amazing, Joe. Thank you so much. You already mentioned earlier where people can find you, but again, could you just tell them where they could find you? And also, I'll put it down in the description too.
Sure. We have a couple ways that you can get a hold of us. We have JoV for prosecutor.com. That's our webpage. You can find us on Facebook at JoV for prosecutor, or there's information there. If you want to give us a call, please feel free. We're happy to answer questions or come out and talk with anybody else.
Sir, thank you so much for spending the evening with me.
Hey, it was awesome. Thank you for having me. We appreciate it.
You stuck around to the very end of the video. Thank you so much for your time out of your day. I know that you guys have a lot of better things going on, but this does mean a lot to a lot of people. Just finding out who are these candidates that are running for Johnson County. I think this is a good platform to get to know them a little bit better. So if you enjoyed it, if you like this type of content, leave a like, comment down below if you want to, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, go ahead and subscribe to the Spotify account or the Apple account. It lets me know that people enjoy this, and I'll be able to do this a lot more. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Do a lot of thinking on who you want. So with that being said, thank you so much.